My name is Elijah West, and I never thought I would find love in my collegiate dorm room, much less with another man growing up in a small town in Minnesota. I had always followed the expected path, dated girls in high school, played football, and planned to study business at university, but everything changed when I arrived at Boston University for my freshman year. The international student housing mix-up that placed me with Lucas Bennett, an exchange student from London, seemed like an administrative error. At first, I remembered standing in theater way of room 304, taking in the sight of the tall blonde guy who was already unpacking his things. "Oh, you must be Nathan," he said with a crisp British accent, extending his hand. "I'm Lucas. Seems we'll be roommates." This year there was something immediately distinguished smile, and the casual way he carried himself. He wore a simple white heck shirt and dark jeans, his sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms marked with subtle tattoos, quotes in what looked like Latin. "Nice to meet you," I managed, wheeling my suitcase inside. I thought I was supposed to be with someone named Chris. Ah yes, poor Chris came down with mono and had to defer for a sec. "Mr. He told me this morning I'd be with you instead. He helped me with one of my boxes. Hope you don't mind having a Brit for a roommate." I didn't mind at all, though I was slightly thrown by how effortlessly cool he seemed while I was still wearing my high school football shirt and cargo shorts. He looked like I'd stepped out of a European fashion magazine. The first few weeks were an adjustment period. Lucas was studying literature and philosophy while I was taking business courses. Our schedules really aligned, but when they did, I found myself increasingly drawn into. With him, he had a way of making even mundane topics fascinating, guff, and launching into passionate discussions about books I'd never read or films I'd never seen. "You've never watched Dead Poets Society?" he asked one evening, looking gay. "That's it, we're watching it right now. Your American education has been severely lacking." We ended up sitting on his bed, sharing his laptop screen. I was acutely aware of how close we were sitting, our shoulders touching occasionally. The movie was actual, but I found myself more distracted by Lucas's reactions, the way he mouthed certain lines. He knew by heart how his eyes lit up during his Fulbright scenes. So he asked when I tended, turning to face me. Our faces were closer than I expected, and I felt a flutter in my stomach. "It was really good," I said, suddenly aware that I hadn't moved away. "Thanks for sharing." Eth smiled, and for a moment something pushed between us, a current of energy he couldn't explain. Then his phone buzzed, breaking the moment. That's Sarah, Hesed said, checking his messages. "We're meeting for coffee to discuss our Victorian literature project." I felt an unexpected twinge of something jealousy that was ridiculous. I had no reason to be jealous of Lucas spending time with a classmate. Yet I found myself wondering about Sarah for the rest of the evening. As September turned to October, I noticed small changes in my behavior. I started spending more time in your room, supposedly studying, but really hoping to catch Lucas between classes. Paid more attention to what I wore, found myself wanting to impress him with my own insights into the books he loved. On rainy Sunday, we were both stuck inside, and Lucas suggested teaching me how to play chess. "It's a crime that you've made it to university without learning," he teased, setting up his beautiful wooden chess set. He sat cross-legged on his bed, and I sat opposite him, trying to focus on thorough. He was explaining rather than theory. His fingers moved gracefully over pieces. "The knight moves in an L shape," he demonstrated, then reached over to guide my hand to the correct position. His touch sent electricity through my arm, and I knocked over several pieces by accident. "Sorry," I mumbled, helping him reset them. "Now, Aries," he laughed. "I was rubbish when I first started to hear 'Let me show you' again." Our chess lessons became a regular Sunday ritual, and with each session I found myself more attuned to Lucas' presence, the way he ran his hand through his hair when concentrating, how his accent grew when he was excited about a particularly good move, the slight dimple that appeared when he smiled. One evening, we were playing our usual game. A thunderstorm hit Boston. The lights flickered once, twice, and then went out completely. "Well, that's unfortunate." Lucas chuckled. In the darkness, I heard him moving around, and suddenly his phone's flashlight illuminated his face. "I think I have some candles from that power outage last month." He rummaged through his drawer and produced several vanilla-scented candles. Placing them around the room, the soft, warm light created an intimate atmosphere that made my heart race slightly. "Shall we continue?" asked, settling back on the bed. "Or are you just using this as an excuse to avoid inevitable defeat?" "I'm getting but," I protested, moving my bishop. "You said so yourself." "That I did," he smiled, capturing my knight with a swift move. "You're still delightfully predictable sometimes." The way he sat delightfully made my stomach flip. We continued playing in comfortable silence, broken only by the sound of rain against windows and occasional rumbles of thunder. "Check," he said softly, leaning forward to move his queen in the candlelight. His features seemed softer, more vulnerable. Somehow a drop of water from his earlier shower fell from his hair onto his collarbone, and I found myself tracking its path with my eyes. Nathaniel's voice snapped me back to reality. "It's your move, right?" "Sorry," I mumbled, trying to focus on the board, but all I could think about was how the cat caught the gold flecks in his green eyes. "Are you all right?" he asked, genuine concern in his voice. "You seem distracted." "Knight." "I'm fine," I said quickly, too quickly, just thinking about I moved micking randomly, not even caring about the game anymore. "It's nothing." He captured micking with his queen, ending the game. "Checkmate," he said softly, but didn't move to reset the board. Instead, he kept looking at me with those intense eyes. "You know you can talk to me about anything, right?" Maybe it was the storm or intimate lighting or just weeks of suppressed feelings finally bubbling to the surface. But I found myself speaking. I've been feeling different lately. I said carefully about certain things. Certain people. Lucas set aside the chest piece he was holding. Different how I didn't know how to explain it. I ran my hands through my hair in frustration. It's like everything I thought I knew about myself is suddenly unclear. He watched it for a moment, then moved to sit beside me. I felt the same way once. Quietly, when I first realized I was attracted to men, my heart stopped. He had never explicitly mentioned his sexuality before, though I'd had my suspicions. I swallowed hard. How did you know for sure? I think deep down I always knew, he said, but I first accepted it when I fell for my best friend at boarding school. It was terrifying and exhilarating at the same time. With a pan nothing, he was straight beauty. Accepting those feelings about him helped me accept myself. He turned to look at me. Nathan, are you trying to tell him something? The candlelight flickered across his face, creating shadows. Thack danced across his cheekbones without thinking. I reached out and touched his jaw, feeling this light stubble under my fingers. I think, I whispered. Think I'm falling for you. The moment words left my mouth, panic seized me. What had I done? I'd just potentially ruined our friendship, our living situation, everything. But then, Lucas covered my hand with his own, keeping it against his face. I know, he said softly. I've seen the way you look at me when you think I'm not watching. Time seemed to stand still in that candlelit moment. Lucas's hand was warm over mine, and you could feel his pulse quickening under my fingers. I've been trying to take things, he continued, his voice barely above a whisper. I didn't want to pressure you or confuse you while you were figuring things out. How long have you known? I said, still not moving my hand from his fuss. Since that night we watched Dead Poet Society. The way you looked at me afterward. He smiled softly. I've seen that look before in my own mirror when I was first coming to terms with who I am. Lightning flashed outside, illuminating the room. For a brief moment in that flash I saw such tenderness in his eyes that it took my breath away. I'm scared, I admitted. I've never felt this way about anyone, let alone a man. He finished gently. When I nodded, he reached up and brushed a strand of hair from my forehead. It's okay to be scared, but you didn't have to figure everything out tonight. What if I want to? The words came out before I could stop them. Luke's gaze dropped to my lips, then back to my eyes. Are you sure? Instead of answering, I leaned forward and kissed him. It was clumsy at first. I had no experience. Another man, but Lucas was patient, guiding me with gentle pressure. His lips were softer than I expected and tasted faintly of the mint tea he'd been drinking earlier. When we finally broke apart, I was trembling slightly. Lucas rested his forehead against mine, his breathing uneven. Okay, he asked softly. I nodded, unable to form words. Everything felt different. The air around us seemed charged with electricity, and the very point of contact between our bodies tingled with awareness. We should probably talk about this, Lucas said, though he made no move to pull away. Can we just stay like this for a minute? I asked, not ready to break the spell off the moment. He smiled and shifted to lean against the wall, pulling me with him. We sat there in comfortable silence, my hidden his shoulder, his fingers tracing patterns on my arm. The storm continued outside, but in our candlelit room of everything felt peaceful. What happens? No, I finally asked. Whatever you want, he replied. We can take this as slow as you need. No pressure, no expectations, and what you want. He was quiet for a moment. I want to be with you, Nathan Booty. Want you to be completely comfortable with who you are. First, this isn't just about us, it's about your journey of self-discovery. The power chose statement to come back on, flooding the room with harsh fluorescent light. We both blinked at the sudden brightness, and I felt a moment of panic in the full light of wreath. It felt more real, more serious. Lucas must have sensed my anxiety of a cause. He squeezed my hand reassuringly. Nothing has to change. If you're not ready, he said, we can pretend this never happened. No, I said, firmly, surprising myself with my conviction. I didn't want to pretend. I just need to process everything, of course. Hesitated to move away, but I held on to his hand. Can we leave the lights off? He asked. Just for a little while longer. He smiled and reached over to flip the switch, plunging us back into the gentle candlelight. This time when he kissed me, I was ready for it. It felt like coming home to a place I never knew. I was looking forth. The next few days were a delicate dance of stolen glances and careful touches. During the day we maintained our roommate routine, but our evenings were filled with long conversations about everything and nothing. Lucas told him about his first boyfriend in London, about coming out to his parents, who were surprisingly supportive, about the challenges and joys of living. As October progressed, a relationship evolved in small, intimate ways. Lucas started teaching me more than just chess. He introduced me to classic literature, foreign films, and the music loved. I found myself developing a particular fondness for the Smith, especially when Lucas would sing along softly while studying. One evening, as we were lying on his bed listening to There Is a Light That Never Goes Out, he scared me about my family. Their traditional, I said carefully, small-town minis. Every Sunday, Republican voters expect me to take over Dad's insurance business after graduation. Lucas propped himself up on an elbow, looking at me seriously. Are you going to tell them? I didn't know, I admitted. I can barely wrap my head around it myself. Sometimes he reached over and intertwined our finger steers. No rush. Coming out is a personal journey, and everyone's timeline is different. However, our careful bubble of privacy was challenged sooner than expected. My high school friend Mike Kamito visit one weekend in early November. We're all hanging out in our room. Andy was hyper aware of maintaining a normal distance from Lucas, so you guys must be pretty tight by now, Mike commented, sprawled in my desk chair. Yay, we get along well, I said, perhaps too casually. Lucas was sitting on his bed pretending to read, but I could tell Hugh was listening. Must be weird having a gay roommate though, Mike continued, and my blood ran cold. I mean, no offense, dude. Headed to Lucas. Lucas looked up from his book, his expression carefully neutral taken. How did you? I started. Sarah from your literature class mentioned it. Mike shrugged, said you guys were pretty obvious about it. My heart was pounding. What? Do you mean that he's gay? Mike clarified, oblivious to my panic. Must be awkward sometimes. Right before I could respond, Lucas stood up. Actually, I should head to the library. Got a paper due Monday. He gathered his things, giving me subtle understanding look before leaving as soon as the door closed. Mike, man, that was awkward. You shoulder request a room change if it makes you uncomfortable. It doesn't make Moon comfortable, I said, my voice stronger than I expected. Lucas, as he's importante me. Mike's expression changed as understanding dawned. Wait, are you and him? Yes, I said quietly. We're together. Silence that followed felt endless. Mike stared at me, then at the door where Lucas had left, then back at me. Bootier not. I mean, you dated Katie Johnson for like a year in high school. No, this is confusing, I said. It was confusing for me too, but I've never felt more myself than I do with him. Mike stood up abruptly. I should go. I need to process this after he left. I sat there feeling numb. Lucas returned an hour later, finding me in the same position. I'm sorry, he said softly, sitting beside. I shouldn't have left you alone to deal with that. No, it's okay. I needed to do it myself. I leaned into him, drawing comfort from his presence. I just didn't expect it to happen like this. He wrapped an arm around me. You're okay. I think Swa's actually kind of a relief in a way, Mike. We'll probably tell everyone back home, so I won't have to have that conversation 100 times. And how do you feel about that? I thought for a moment, scared but also free. The aftermath of my visit unfolded gradually. Within a week, my phone was flooded with messages from high school friends and acquaintances. Some were supportive, others confused, and a few were down with or still. My sister Emma called, telling me she heard rumors and wanted the truth from me directly. Is it true? She asked without preamble. Are you dating your roommate? Taking a deep breath, I looked at Lucas, who was sitting across the room pretending not to listen. He gave me an encouraging smile. Yes, I said, his name is Luke, and he's amazing. There was a pause. Then, are you happier than I've ever been? Then that's all that matters, she said simply. But Nathan, Mom and Dad are going to find out soon. You shall tell them yourself before Samia Niels does. She was right, of course. That night Lucas held me as I drafted and redrafted emails to my parents, finalizing on a simple, honest message. Their response came 2 days later. My father stir. We need to discuss this, and my mother's longer, more emotional plea to this phase. They want me to come home this weekend. I told Lucas Mr. Mac in knots to talk things through. Lucas set aside his book and pulled me into his arms. Do you want me to come with you? The offer touched me deeply. Booty shook my head. I need to do this alone, but will you be here when I get back? Always, he promised, kissing my forehead. Weekend at home was as difficult as I had expected. My father oscillate between angry lectures about family reputation and long silences. My mother cried, and it showed me articles about conversion therapy. Through it all, I found strength in thinking about Lukash's quiet confidence, his unwavering spirit. I'm not changing who I am, I finally told them Sunday morning. I love both, but I also love Lucas. That's going to change. I left before they could respond, taking an early bus back to Boston. Lucas was waiting in our room, and at the moment I saw him, all the tension from the weekend melted away. He opened Eddie's arms and I fell into them, finally letting myself cry. I've got you, he whispered, running his fingers through my hair. I've got you. That night our relationship shifted into something deeper for the first time. We made love slow, tender, and full of whisper reassurance. Lucas was patient, guiding me through my nervousness with gentle touches and soft words. Afterwardly in his arms, I felt completely at peace. Thank you, I murmured against his chest. For what? For helping me find myself. The weeks that followed were both challenging and beautiful. My parents stopped taking my calls, but Mary remained supportive, even asking to meet Lucas over Thanksgiving break. Meanwhile, relationship flourished. We started going on proper dates, dinner at tiny Italian restaurants, walks along the Charles River, midnight movies at the independent cinema where Lucas worked part-time. Lucas introduced me to his friends from the literature department, though welcomed me warmly into their circle. For the first time I experienced what it felt like to be part of a community. I could be completely missed. We went to LGBTQ+ studying group meetings together where I met other people going through similar journeys. Sarah, the girl from Lucas' Victorian literature class, became one of our closest friends. She was Theon, who convinced us to go to our first Pride event, a small gathering on campus. Two are disgustingly cute together, declared, watching us share a rainbow-colored snow cone. But I take full credit for this relationship. If I hadn't switched seats with Nathan in the dining hall that one time, you might never have started talking. As winter settled over Boston, our relationship continued to deepen. Lucas and I developed our own little routines and traditions. Every Friday night we try a different international cuisine. His attempt to broaden my painfully American palate, as he hazingly called it, Sunday mornings were spent in bed reading books, he recommended while sharing coffee and croissants from the French bakery down the street. December brought finals and the looming a question of winter break. My parents had made it clear I wasn't welcome home unless I came to my senses, and the thought of being away from Lucas for 3 weeks made my heart ache. Come to London with me, Lucas suggested one night as we lay tangled together, snow falling softly outside our window. My parents would love to meet you. The offer terrified and excited me in equal measure. Are you sure? Isn't it too soon? Propped himself up on one elbow, looking at me with those intense green eyes. Nathan, I'm in love with you. I want you to see where I came from. Meet the people who shaped me, but only if you're ready. It was the first time either of us had said I love you. My heart felt like it might burst. I love you too, he whispered, pulling him down for a kiss. And yes, I'll come to London. London in winter was magical. Lucas's parents lived in a beautiful townhouse in Notting Hill, and they welcomed me with warm hugs and endless cups of tea. His mother, Carolina, was an art curator with kind eyes, and Lucas's same infectious laugh. His father, James, was a literature professor who immediately engaged me in discussions about American authors. We've heard so much about you, Carolyn said over dinner her first night. Lucas's calls home heavy, been nothing but Nathan this and Nathan. Since September, Lucas blushed, something I rarely saw. Mom, please, it's true though, darling, she continued, winking at me. We haven't seen him Thishopi in ages. Over the next 3 weeks, Lucas showed me his London, the hidden bookshops, the cozy pubs, the quiet corners of Hyde Park where he used to read as a teenager. We spent Christmas Eve with his extended family, who treated me like I'd always been part of their world. On New Year's Eve, we stood on the banks of the Thames watching fireworks illuminate the London Eye. Lucas wrapped his arms around him from behind, resting his chin on Miss Holder. Thank you for coming here with him, he murmured. Thank you for inviting me, replied, leaning back against him. Your family is amazing. They're your family too now, he said simply, and I had 2 blink-back tears. When we returned to Boston for spring semester, everything felt different, more settled, started talking about getting an apartment together for sophomore year. Our room had become too small for our growing collection of books, chess sets, and the art prints Lucas kept bringing home from vintage markets on a particularly memorable evening in February. We were studying for midterm soon. Lucas suddenly looked up from his book. What would you think about spending the summer here? Instead of going home, he asked, we could both get jobs, maybe start looking for that apartment. You'd stay here instead of going back to London, he smiled, taking my hand. Home isn't a place anymore. Nathan needs wherever you are. That night, as well, lay in bed planning our future, I thought about how much had changed in just 6 months. I'd arrived at Boston University to study business, make some friends, and follow the path my parents had laid out for me. Instead, I'd found love, acceptance, and the courage to be myself. My phone buzzed with a text from Emma. Mom asked about you today. Baby steps but progress. Messiah, you big bro. Give Lucas a hug. From spring semester flew by in a blur. Off classes, date nights, and apartment hunting. Lucas and I found a small but charming 1-bedroom in Cambridge, close enough to campus but far enough to feel like we were building our own life. Photographer, the landlady, an elderly woman named Mrs. Chen, took an immediate liking to us. You remind me of my grandson and his partner, she said warmly as we signed the lease. They started just like you, 2 young in love, figuring things out together. As May approached, had bring with it final exams and the end of our freshman year, I received an unexpected email from my mother. She wanted to meet for coffee during move-out week. Lucas encouraged me to go. I'll handle packing up our room, he offered. Could be important. I met my mother at a cafe near campus. She looked smaller, somehow more uncertain than I'd ever seen her. You look good, she said after an awkward hug. Happy? I am happy, Mum cheffiddled with her coffee cup. Emma Shassam, your Instagram. Sometimes the pictures of you and Lucas, she said his name carefully like she was testing how it felt on her tongue. You do look happy. Together. We are, I said softly. His incredible. Mom, I wish you could know him. She was quiet for a long moment. Maybe. Someday. I'm trying. Nathan, your father is too, in his way. We just need time. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. When I told Lucas about the conversation later, he held me close as I cried tears of relief and hope. The day we moved into our new apartment was chaotic but joyful. Sarah and some friends from the LGBTQ+ group helped us carry boxes and furniture. By evening, we're surrounded by unpacked boxes, eating pizza on our second-hand couch. Our first piece of furniture, a toga. Welcome home, Lucas said, raising his beer bottle, and a toast that summer was filled with new experiences and milestones. We both found jobs, Lucas at a local bookstore and me at a cafe. Well earned to navigate living together properly. Who was better at cooking? Luke was more organized. To me, how to share a bathroom in the morning, a careful choreographed dance. We decorated our apartment with a mix of our styles. Lucas's vintage movie posters alongside me, minimalist art prints. The chessboard found a permanent home on our coffee table. Every evening we'd play at least one game, keeping score in a little notebook. Lucas still won most of that time, but I was getting better. One night in July, as we sat on our tiny balcony watching the sunset over the Cambridge sky, Lucas turned to me with a serious expression. I've been thinking, Hesed, playing with my promise ring after graduation. When I start teaching and you begin your graduate studies, maybe Westhold, look for a house instead of another apartment. My heart skipped who's something small but ours with room for a proper library and maybe room to grow. The implication hung in the air, wet act about kids before hypothetical. This felt more real. I'd like that, I said softly, all of it. He smiled, that some smile that had captivated me in Theodenning Hall 3 years ago. Yeah, but first, I reached into my pocket, pulling out the small box I'd been carrying for weeks. I have something to ask you. Lucas's eyes widened as I opened the box, revealing a simple platinum band. You gave me a promise ring last year, I said, me voice shaking slightly. Now I want to give you a different kind of promise, Lucas James Harrison. Will you marry me? Lucas's eyes filled with tears as he pulled me close. Yes, he whispered against me lips. Of course it's yes. We decided to have a small autumn wedding after graduation. The ceremony was held in the Boston Public Garden, where we'd spent countless afternoons studying and dreaming together. The fall leaves provided a perfect backdrop of red and gold. My father walked me down the aisle, something I never thought I'd see happen. Lucas waited under an arch of flowers, looking handsome in his tailored navy suit. When our eyes met, everything else faded away. I remember the first time I saw you in that dining hall, Lucas said during his vows, his voice thick with emotion. You looked lost, but there was a something in your eyes that drew me in. Watching you grow into yourself, seeing you become this confident, amazing man, it's been the privilege of my life, and I can't wait to keep growing with you. Mivos were simpler. You didn't just love me, you helped me learn to love. Myself. Every day with you feels like coming home. Emma and Sarah were our best people. When Mrs. Chen sat in the front row next to her parents, dabbing at her eyes with a handkerchief, reception was held at our favorite Italian restaurant, where both familiars danced and celebrated together. Late in tooth night, we moved into our small house that winter, a charming colonial with Celebree Lucas had dreamed of, and a sunny room we both knew would someday be a nursery. Our story wasn't perfect, but it was ours, filled with love, growth, and second of happiness. I never knew what's possible. That first day in the dining hall, as we lay in bed, our first night in your new home, Lucas traced the wedding band on my finger. Happy, he asked. He thought about the scared, confused freshman I'd been and the man I'd become with Lucas by my side, more than I ever imagined possible. And that's where what our story ends, but really it was just the beginning.